Hello again, everyone. I'm Laurie Duchek, Information Officer for the Regional District of East Kootenay, and we're glad to have you joining us for another one of our video informational updates. And I'm pleased to be joined once again by BC Wildfire Information Officer Mike McCulley. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Laurie.
And let's kick things off with the one thing that's been on lots of people's minds for the last 24 hours or so, and that is the weather. What's happening out there?
Sure, thanks, Laurie. So we talk about the weather every day. Obviously, it's very important to fire behavior, and we know that yesterday we did see some wind. I talked a little bit about the fact that our fires had stayed relatively quiet considering what we were expecting, so that was great news. Today, though, a little different story. It's not so much the wind that's causing us effect, rather the clear skies and the warmer surface temperatures. We had some cloudy conditions yesterday, kept the ground cool, kept our fire behavior down. Today, not so much. We had very clear skies from early on, and we saw some fire behavior pick up quite early in the day. Having said that, we're still having good success, at least on the Lamb Creek fire, which I'd like to talk a little bit about now. Most of the fire is still staying within the perimeter. We've had nothing escape out over the guard lines, and today people are probably seeing an awful lot of smoke coming out of that area. It's due to the ignition operations that I've been talking about. Today, finally, the indices lined up for us, and we were able to commence our larger scale aerial ignition plan. And what we're doing is we are burning off fuel on the west flank of the fire in this area. We're using a helicopter with a drip torch on the bottom. It literally flies around dropping fire onto the landscape. We do that in a strategic pattern based on a very set plan prepared by our fire behavior analysts, our ignition specialists, and our weather people. They fly around, they basically light the fuel on fire very slowly and strategically, and if it looks like we're going to get a good burn and remove most of the fuel, they'll go forward with the operation. That's what folks are seeing out there today. We would like to draw this fire back up to the guard line, take that fuel away from the head of the fire, and reinforce that guard line, which is the technique I've talked about many times. When we do these things, people often ask, do they escape? Do they get away? What do you do about those types of things? And certainly there's some risk of that, but we feel we've addressed those risks within our planning. We've been prepared, we've waited for that, and we have extra crews on site ready to deal with those things if they happen. We've also strategically staged some extra aircraft today, so we have extra heavy helicopters ready to bucket. We have our air tankers ready to go, our skimmers that you've seen scooping out of the lake. And once we make this burn happen and we remove the fuel successfully, beyond that we bring in an extra crew, and they will spend the next few days actually putting that fire out. So getting in there, looking at the hot spots, getting deep into the ground and working through the area and cleaning it up and putting it out. Okay. We're also doing some ignition on the lower side on the south flank here with hand ignition. Same tool that we use quite often. So we do have crews working both sides of the fire, making a lot of smoke today, but that's what folks are seeing.
And I know that you've been out on the fire. They've had people out there 24 hours a day. Will there be crews out overnight again tonight? Yeah,
of course. We do have night crews out there as well. If indices are right, our night crews will be performing the same type of operations our day crews have been. Last night when it was a little windier, we have them in more strategic places where they're patrolling guard line, monitoring the fires I talked about, and being our eyes and ears. Tonight we will have more crews out on the line, and we'll be continuing to move forward. Really important for us to get some handle on this fire. We're very anxious to try to get the folks back home into their places.
Right, and that's definitely something that's on all of our minds, but the number one priority remains public safety, not just the public, but also your responders. So that's always first and foremost in our minds. So taking a look then tomorrow at the weather as we look ahead, you've talked today about the weather. What are we kind of forecasting into tomorrow in terms of what you're expecting to see out there?
Probably very similar conditions to today, to be frank. We know that it's not going to be overcast. We're into a period where we're going to see clear skies again, slightly above normal temperatures for the season, mid-20s. Humidities will start to drop down a little bit. So we can expect to see that increase in fire behavior over the next few days. And again, I know that we're getting close to winter, but we're not there yet. So really encouraging folks to stay on high alert, pay attention. This is not over by any stretch. We've got a lot of hard work to do, and our crews are focused on making that happen.
Okay, definitely watching the crews come off the fire line, there's no question that they are out there working hard. So our thanks to you and to your entire team. And is there anything else that you wanted to add today?
No, again, just want to thank folks for their patience, and just know that we're trying really hard. This fire for us is quite a high priority, and we're doing our best effort out there, so thank you so much.
Okay, thanks so much. And so this has been the update on specifically the Lamb Creek fire. Next, we're going to be speaking with Donna MacPherson. She's also another information officer with the BC Wildfire Service, and we'll come back shortly with an update on some of the other fires around the region. So I'm pleased to be joined now by Donna MacPherson. She is one of the info officers with the BC Wildfire Service, and over the last couple of days that I've been able to get to know Donna a little bit, I've been super impressed with your experience and your knowledge. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
First off, Donna's going to give us an overview of some of the things happening on some of the other fires around the East Kootenay region, and then we're going to talk for a little bit of an education information piece about some terminology, because I know that's on the minds of many people. So Donna, first off, maybe you can just give us an idea of what's going on out there on some of the other fires.
Well, as Mike mentioned, yesterday was a more active fire day, and we were seeing that especially on the fires that were in the Flathead area. Most of our fires that had any fire response on them had held very well. We were very pleased with that. The St. Mary's fire, for example, the mop-up and control lines held very well, and the crews are continuing that work. The Linkladder fire, the one that's down on the border near the U.S. border that came our way, all of those control lines were very strong and they held well. They're continuing their work to strengthen those today. The Quinn Creek fire is one that people are concerned about. It's the one that's started in Quinn Creek. It wound up in the Bull drainage. We've been putting retardant line across the top of the ridge to the east with air tankers for 2 days now, and we also have a retardant pit in there so the helicopters can work with the crews and continue that work in that area. The Suwa Mountain fire, which is one of the fires that's in the Flathead, was very active yesterday. We were having a rank 6 fire behavior, which is pretty much everything in the forest from the ground to the tops of the trees was on fire. And so was the lodgepole fire, which is also in the Flathead area. That's a really good example as to why that area restriction is in that place. The fires were very reactive in those places. So for the Suwa fire, it's moved across the side of the mountain a little bit. We're going to get in and have a look at it today to see how far along the mountain it's moved. It may at some point come around the corner, and it may be visible from Elko and from the highway. But right now we don't exactly know how far it's moved along that slope. It was pretty smoky and pretty active yesterday when our people had a look at it. So basically that was the fires that I was going to talk about around this area.
Okay, and we've mentioned, not just with you, but also with Mike McCulley earlier, that because of the conditions today, there is some more active fire behavior out there, and obviously we do have a number of active fires across the region, so people are going to be seeing potentially some more smoke plumes and some more activity around those fires, and that's certainly something that was expected because of the weather conditions today. So I appreciate you bringing this information, and now just moving into, just quickly, talking about maybe some of the terminology that you use. So we've heard things like guarded, and people ask, well, if there's a guard around something, how come you're not saying it's contained? So can you just maybe give me an explanation about the difference between those terms?
So those are technical fire terms that our crews use and our management people use to be able to describe work. The fire guard is the actual physical piece that's been built either by machine or by hand around a fire. So that's what the crews do when they dig down to mineral soil and they move all of the fuels out of the way. Control lines is a bigger category, and it includes anything that could prevent the fire from moving, and it can include creeks, lakes, rivers. It could also include things along mountainsides like a slide area where the dirt has fallen down and has created a fuel-free barrier. All of those together represent control lines. But a control line alone won't stop a fire, especially if you've got fires that are spotting ahead. So the kind of work that Mike was talking about on the Lamb Creek fire, where they do burnouts either by hand by crews, which is fairly routine, or the larger burns that have the burn plans like they're working on today, remove the fuel in between the fire and the control line, and basically they make it so it's less likely to jump the control line. So a containment is actually an evaluation or a judgment call on the behalf of our professional fire management people of the likelihood of the fire actually crossing the control line and escaping. And they look at upcoming weather, they look at upcoming fire behavior, and they look at the strength of the line and how much fuel ahead of it has been taken out. So those numbers are a little bit more of an indication not only of the physical work that's been done, but also the anticipated activity of the fire in the future.
Right, so really important distinction to understand the difference between guarding, containment. Those are those are not interchangeable terms, so thank you very much for clearing that up for us and for your time today. Just a reminder that the Regional District of East Kootenay does have a number of evacuation orders and alerts in place. So we do have an evacuation alert in place still on the St. Mary's River fire for those 36 homes on the Atcom Reserve, along with the properties in the Mission Fort Steele area. We've still got an evacuation order in place on the west side of Lake Koocanusa in what we're calling Newgate West Koocanusa. There's an alert in place on the east side of Lake Koocanusa in the Grassmere area. And we've got an order in place in the Moye area around both Moye North and South. And then finally, we also have an evacuation order in place on the White River Complex for the White Swan area. So if you want the latest on information on the evacuation orders or alerts, you can find those on our website, rdak.bc.ca. There's a link right on the main page for information on emergencies, and we encourage you to check that out. You can see the maps and everything there. So is there anything else that you wanted to add today, Donna?
No, I just wanted, as Mike did, to remind people that we've still got a period of time to go forward before we're seeing any weather that could call that season ending. So we thank people for their patience, and we're asking people to make sure that they obey the orders and alerts. They're very important. Our fire responders, our safety is put at risk if we have to deal with people that are in the wrong place, and it can also actually stop our ability to work on a fire for a period of time. So please obey them, please give us a bit of patience, and we're doing the best we can.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your work, and again to your entire team, as I said to Mike. So thank you for joining us today for this video update. We will certainly continue to try to provide you with information and the latest updates as we can, not just by video, but with our emails and our web updates and those kinds of things, so that whether you're technologically savvy or not, that you've got the way to get the information. So thanks for joining us today, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.